Something Real Chapter 3. Abby, still getting used to Izzy, hadn't heard from Carter by Wednesday and figured he wasn't really as interested as he seemed to be. She sat Thursday night with Winchester on the couch reading a good book. The TV, lately to her, seemed just overbearing and noisy. She had read through a couple of chapters when her phone started ringing. She finished her paragraph and then reached over to get the phone off of the coffee table to see who called. She looked to see on the display just Carter had called. She smiled to herself as she slid her finger across the screen and put the phone to her ear. "Hello, Izzy," Carter said as he answered. "What are you so tied up with that the phone was just too troubling to answer?" "Oh, just sitting back here wondering if cold fusion is possible," she joked with him. "Sounds intense," he chuckled. "It's just a hobby, but it's how I pass the time," she continued the joke. She sat back on the couch and snuggled up under a blanket. "Hey, I was just wondering if you want to do something this Saturday, and we can make a day out of it," Carter told her. "What did you have in mind?" She questioned him. "There's a county a little way from here, having county fair," he told her. "We could go check it out until we get bored, and then we can go from there." "That sounds like it would be fun," she smiled as she talked on the phone. "Great then," he said. "I'll give you a call late Saturday morning, and we can decide what to do from there." "I'll talk to you then," Izzy said, and the two said their goodbyes. Carter turned to the man standing next to him. "I'm in." She agreed to go. "Good," the man said. "Good job." Winchester, a beautiful German shepherd, woke her early Saturday morning, and she grudgingly got up, trying to determine how to teach the dog to sleep in on Saturday. She changed into her running clothes and headed out to the park, Winchester proudly trotting in front of her, knowing victory was his. They made their way to the dog area of the park, which was vacant at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Izzy reached into her pocket and pulled out a tennis ball as she unlatched his leash. He danced around as he waited for her to throw the ball. She threw the ball as he went chasing after his prize. They went through the same ritual repeatedly for about 15 minutes when Izzy sat on the grass, enjoying the warmth of the sun. "Izzy," Carter called over to her from the jogging path. "Hey, Carter," Izzy said with a smile and stood up. "Y'all are playing?" "Yeah," Izzy groaned. "He won't let me sleep in, even on Saturday." Winchester came running back with the ball. "But I still think he's a good boy." "Yeah, he's a good boy," she said to Winchester's delight. "I certainly didn't think I would run into you here," Carter commented as Izzy threw the ball again. "Where do you live?" "Over on Whispering Pines," she told him. "Are you serious?" Carter seemed genuinely shocked. "I live on Foxworth." Izzy was shocked. "That's hilarious. We live a couple of blocks from each other." Carter looked at her and thought for a moment. "Do you want to start the day early?" Izzy thought briefly. "Sure. What did you have in mind?" "How about we go eat breakfast and then go from there?" Carter suggested. "This is going to be the strangest date," Izzy chuckled. "We have no real plans." Carter laughed quietly. "I didn't really think of it like that." "I need to go clean up," Izzy said, and she called Winchester over. "I'll call you in an hour or so," Carter told her, and they ran off in different directions. Izzy ran home and cleaned up and readied herself for the day. Carter called her, and she gave him the address. "I'll be there in a few minutes." Carter soon arrived and walked up to the door. "Hey," Izzy said as she opened the door. "I know I just left my house, but do you mind if I use your bathroom?" Carter asked as he walked in. "No," Izzy said as she walked to get her wallet. "Not at all. There's one right behind you." "Thank you," Carter said as he stepped in. He was disappointed. He had wanted to see the layout of her home. Winchester wandered over to where Carter was standing. "Hey, dog." Winchester wagged his tail and licked Carter's hand. "He shouldn't bother you too much." She walked back to her bedroom and put a little extra money in her small wallet. She slipped the wallet in her pocket and grabbed her cell phone off of the charger. She slipped her phone in another pocket and her keys in yet another. She met Carter and Winchester in the living room. "Are you ready?" Carter questioned her. "I'm ready," she smiled over at him. The two got on their way, and it was just 9:30. They relished a relaxed breakfast at a local diner and headed over to the county fair. They enjoyed themselves all afternoon. Carter even won her a teddy bear at one of the game booths. "I can't believe you won this." Izzy smiled as she looked over at him. To be honest, he looked over at her. "I can't believe I won it either." The two walked in silence for a little while as they moseyed through the fair, stopping to buy some chicken on a stick. "Are you from around here?" Carter asked Izzy. "No," Izzy told him as she sat at a picnic table and nibbled a bit on her chicken. "I've lived a few places, but I'm hoping to stay here, at least for a little while." "A little while?" Carter questioned her as he sat across from her, taking a big bite. "I bought my house." She looked over at him and smiled. "I'm hoping to stay here for a while." "That's good to know," Carter grinned. "What about you? Are you from around here?" Izzy questioned him. "Born and raised in Dallas-Fort Worth," he informed her, and they both finished off their chicken. That was more of an appetizer than a meal. Izzy laughed and nodded. They both stood up and started walking again. They had been at the fair for hours walking around and enjoying all it had to offer. "How about we go ride the Ferris wheel, and then we go get something to eat?" Carter offered. "That sounds like it would be nice." Izzy smiled, enjoying how being around him felt so easy and normal. The two walked over to the ride and waited in line as the sun began to set. They soon had their turn and climbed into their car. "I have to confess something." Izzy looked bashfully over at Carter as the car they were in climbed higher. "What's that?" "I'm scared of heights," Izzy admitted. Carter then put his arm around her. "Then I will put my arm around you until we get off." Izzy smiled and blushed a little as the two lingered close. Carter leaned into her and gave her a kiss. "Did that help?" he asked with a smile. "I think I might still be a little scared," she smiled deviously at him. They both leaned in for a second kiss. "Now, I feel much better," Izzy smiled at him. "And I was hoping you still needed some encouragement," Carter grinned. "I can always use that," Izzy said, thinking she hadn't felt this comfortable in a long time. "I better help you out then." Carter smiled as they kissed one more time. He grabbed her hand as they got off of the ride, but he didn't let go this time. "Now, let's go get something to eat," Carter said as they began to walk back to his truck. Izzy climbed in, and Carter leaned in and kissed her again. "What was that for?" Carter smiled and said, "Just because." Izzy smiled, and he closed the door. The two headed out to a nice dinner, and then Carter brought her home. "Thank you," Izzy said as they stood by her front door. "I had a lot of fun." Carter sighed. "I would rather not wait until next weekend to see you again." "I don't either," Izzy confessed. "How about I give you a call tomorrow, and we figure something out?" Carter offered. "I would like that," Izzy agreed. "Then I will call you tomorrow," Carter told her as he stole one last kiss. The two said goodnight, and Carter headed home. Carter was greeted on his front step by the man who he's reporting to, Agent Rob Hall of the FBI. Deputy Marshal Carter Wolf had been working as a DEP, U.S. Marshal, for the last 7 years. After working with one of the local sheriff's departments for 5 years, he decided to move to the federal level, which he did with ease. He enjoyed his work with the marshal's office, and when he was offered this assignment, he jumped at it. He was briefed on the case file and was soon put on a surveillance detail. He monitored her movements, but was unable to find anything that connected Izzy to Abby. Carter and Rob walked into the living room of Carter's house and began to discuss the night's events. "I spent almost the whole day with her," Carter reported. "I could find nothing that would indicate she's Abby, and I saw no signs of the Russians." "That's good and bad news," Rob told him. "Yeah," Carter agreed as he grabbed a beer out of the fridge. "If it's her, it's good they're not around, but we need to talk her in time for the trial." "Do you think she's keeping up with the trial?" Rob asked as he sat down on a bar stool. "If she's Abby and she's checking on the case, she hides it well," Carter responded. "But I have only known her for a week." Carter leaned on the counter in front of him, next to his beer. "There isn't any way I could find that out this quickly." Rob nodded. "The reports are great. Keep it up." Rob stood up ready to leave. "Yes, sir," Carter responded. He still wasn't comfortable with the FBI agent. Rob soon left Carter to his thoughts. Carter considered the situation and pondered what Abby had been through. If Izzy was Abby, she had been shot twice, presumably with the amount of blood and bullet holes at the scene in Nebraska. Abby, if she was still alive, had been on the run for over a year. The DEP, marshal in charge of her protection, Agent Sammy Crow, couldn't understand why Abby didn't meet him at the secondary rally point. Carter spoke with Agent Crow on a few occasions, trying to learn more about Abby and the case surrounding her. He just hoped they could find her on time, not only for the sake of the trial, but more importantly for her safety. Izzy, Abby, was in the witness protection program for about 6 months. A year ago, while living in Kearney, Nebraska, the crime syndicate responsible for the murder she witnessed found her. She was able to escape the ambush, but not without injury. She was shot while escaping the house she was living in. She sought shelter from a friend and lived there peacefully while tracking the case on the internet. She would return to testify, but not until she was certain it would go to trial. She had been AWOL from the program for about a year, but with the trial looming, they needed to get her secured and within reach for the trial. Her problem was, since the crime organization found her, despite her not breaking any of the rules, she didn't trust anyone at the FBI or the marshal's office. The only way they could have found her is if someone had revealed to them her location. Monday morning, Izzy woke up to Winchester with his leash in his mouth, whining. He dropped the leash only to lick her on the face. "Okay," she groaned. "I'm getting up." Izzy grudgingly got dressed for her run and headed out with Winchester. Listening to her music while she jogged around the neighborhood, Carter spotted her and pulled up alongside her. Izzy stopped suddenly, but soon realized it was Carter. "Hey, Carter." Izzy smiled and stepped over to his truck. "What gets you out so early on a Monday?" "I have to head into work early today." Carter smiled at her from his seat. She leaned on the edge of the open window. "We still on for tonight?" Carter put his truck in park and leaned over to kiss her. "What do you think?" He grinned like the Cheshire Cat. "I'll take that as a yes," she said and smiled. "I'll see you tonight." "I can't wait." Carter smiled at her as he put his truck back in gear. Izzy ran off with the dog, and Carter headed to work. Carter spent most of his work day observing her from a distance. He used a government car with plates that couldn't be traced back to the office. He watched her go through the monotony of the day, seemingly without a care in the world, and wondered if she was Abby. He watched as she climbed in her personal truck at the end of her workday. He decided to call right before she got in. Izzy headed to her truck, looking at her watch. She and Carter had made arrangements on Sunday to go out for dinner on the way home from work. They both got off of work at about the same time, so it seemed easier. She climbed in her truck, guessing he had to work a little later. She started up her truck, and the phone rang. She looked at it and smiled. "Hello, just Carter." "Hey, you." He smiled himself while he sat a little distance away, but where he could still watch her. "What do you feel like going tonight?" "I don't know." She thought for a moment. "I think it's your turn to decide." Carter thought for a moment and picked a barbecue restaurant right by their neighborhood. "Barbecue sounds good." Izzy agreed. "I'll see you in about a half hour or so. I might be a little longer, but I'll see you soon." She told him. The two said their goodbyes, and she headed off to the restaurant. Much to her surprise, she beat him there and waited in the front for him to get there. She looked up about 10 minutes later to see him walking in. "You beat me here," he commented as he walked in. "I was surprised too," she told him. He walked up to her and kissed her. "I'm going to get one early this time," he said as he smiled. She smiled back at him. "Let's go in." "I'm starved," he told her as he grabbed her hand. The two were seated and soon found themselves lost in conversation. The evening went by too fast, and the two soon went their separate ways. Izzy arrived at home and began thinking about Montana and Deck. Her and Chief Rudy Decker had met about 4 years ago at a law enforcement conference in Florida. Abby had wandered down to the bar the night before it started and found a comfortable spot at the bar in the hotel. It quickly started to fill when Deck walked in. He planted himself in the stool next to hers, and they hit it off really quickly. "I hope you don't mind, but you're much better looking than those guys." Deck chuckled as he sat down. Abby chuckled and turned to the man. "Abby James." She offered to shake the man's hand. He took her up on the handshake. "Rudy Decker. It's nice to meet you." Abby took a sip of her drink. "What are you here for?" "There's a conference tomorrow, here at the hotel." He began to explain. "Police Officers Association?" She questioned with a smile. "That would be it." Decker smiled. "Don't tell me that's why you're here, too." "That will be why I'm here." Abby leaned toward him and whispered. "Vacation paid for courtesy of the city." He glanced around and whispered back, "Don't tell my mayor that." He chuckled and took a sip of his drink. He looked over at her thinking she looked awful young. "How long have you been in?" 7 years, Jersey girl." Abby shook her head. 2 of those were spent in the jail." "Ah, yes, the jail." Decker nodded knowingly. "I hated the jail." Abby shook her head again and took a sip of her drink. "I did too." He nodded, understanding how she felt. "What do you do now?" "Patrol you." "I'm the boss, Cut Bank, Montana." He bellowed a big laugh. "Chief," she chuckled herself. "Yep, damn, I'm rubbing elbows with the big wigs." Abby chuckled, and this made Decker laugh. The two hit it off and moved to a booth to get some food. They ended up meeting for lunch and supper each day of the conference. They even ventured out of the hotel most days, enjoying a break from the cold of the north. Abby hated to see the week end and readily agreed to exchange phone numbers and emails. They both left with the promise to keep in touch. Both made good on that promise and kept up with each other as the years went by. They were even able to meet up at a couple of more conferences. She smiled thinking of her old friend. She had made him a second promise when she left Montana this last time, not to contact him until the trial was over. They were able to set up an email address. No mails were sent from the address, except some things they agreed to sign up for, junk mail. But if one had to contact the other, only in dire circumstances, they would leave a draft email for the other to read.